In this video, I'm going to tell you what the most important metric is for your supplement or wellness DTC brand. And no, it's not your monthly revenue, it's not your growth rate, it's not even your cost to acquire a customer. The metric is much simpler and much more powerful than that. And the reason I believe almost every supplement brand owner in the United States should be obsessed with this metric is because it reveals everything. The real quality of your product, the complete experience with your brand from the moment the customer discovers you until they spontaneously recommend you to their friends. And in this video, I'm going to share a bit about my experience in the wellness market, show you real industry data, cases of brands that master this metric, and most importantly, explain why this is the only metric that truly matters if you want to build a sustainable brand in the long term. So let's go. Why is this metric so important? I want you to understand something here. The supplement and wellness market in the US is massive. We are talking about a global market that reached $6.3 trillion in 2023 and should approach $9 trillion by 2028, according to the Global Wellness Institute. But here's the brutal reality. In this massive market, most brands fail. And why? Because they become obsessed with the wrong metrics. They look at monthly revenue, the number of new customers, the reach of the last Instagram post, but completely ignore the metric that determines whether your brand will be alive in 5 years. And man, I see this happening every day in the American market. Brands that explode in sales in the first year and disappear by the third. Brands that spend fortunes on ads but can't retain anyone. And the problem isn't a bad product, isn't a weak marketing. The problem is they are not measuring the right thing. And what is this metric? This metric is called NPS, the famous Net Promoter Score. Okay, Paul, but NPS is that annoying survey that brands send out? Exactly, but it's much more than that. Let me explain why NPS is literally the most important metric that exists for your supplement brand. NPS is based on a simple question, like in this example, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend your brand to a friend or colleague? And depending on the answer, your customers are divided into 3 categories. Promoters from 9 to 10. These are your fanatic fans who will spontaneously recommend your brand. Then we have the passives between 7 to 8. They like the product but aren't passionate about your brand. And the detractors between 0 and 6. They are dissatisfied and might even badmouth your brand. And the calculation is somewhat simple. Percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. The result ranges from minus 100 to plus 100. Okay, but why is this important? Because this question doesn't just measure satisfaction with the product, it measures the complete experience with your brand. It measures whether your consumer trusts you so much that they would put their reputation at risk by recommending you to their best friend. And here's where it gets interesting. Bain & Company, the consulting firm that created NPS back in 2003, discovered something fascinating after studying thousands of companies. Companies with the highest NPS in their sectors grow in revenue 2.5 times faster than their competitors. And let me repeat that. 2.5 times faster. That's no small thing. And here's more. The same Bain company discovered that improving your customer retention by just 5% can increase your profits between 25% and 95%, believe me or not. You read that right, up to 95% increasing profits just by improving retention. And check this crucial data from McKinsey for supplement brands. Improving customer journeys can increase satisfaction by 20% and boost revenue by up to 15%. This is exactly what NPS helps you do. Identify where your customer journey is breaking. But here's the most important point of all, and this is especially critical in the supplement market. Loyal customers spend 67% more on average than new customers. And in our sector, where average lifetime value is fundamental, this completely changes the game. Think with me. You can spend 50, 80, even 150 to acquire a new customer through ads. But if that customer only buys once and never comes back, you're broke. Now, if you have a high NPS, you have customers who buy from you repeatedly, they spend more over time, they refer their friends, which basically cost per acquisition is zero, and they defend your brand on social media. Now, let's talk specifically about the wellness and supplement market because there are important nuances here. According to industry data, the health and wellness industry has an average NPS of only 24.5%, but the top 15 brands in the sector average 37%. In other words, there's a brutal difference between mediocre brands and leaders. And look at this. In 2024, McKinsey discovered that about 50% of customers in the United States and United Kingdom reported that clinical efficacy is the number one factor in purchasing supplement decisions. Only 20% cited natural ingredients as the main factor. You know what this means? The American consumer is increasingly sophisticated. They want real results, they want transparency, they want science. And when they are not getting that, your NPS plummets. Brands like Athletic Greens, Ritual, and Nutrafol understand this perfectly. These brands invest heavily in clinical studies, somewhere between $25,000 to $100,000 per study, precisely because they know this directly impacts customer trust and consequently NPS. And here's another crucial point. Customer acquisition cost has increased more than 50% in the last 5 years in the wellness sector. This means that if you don't have a high NPS, you're literally throwing money away on acquisition because customers don't come back. So let me give you some practical examples of how this works in the real world of the American supplement market. AG1 or Athletic Greens, this brand built an empire of over 500 million in annual revenue by obsessively focusing on customer experience. They don't just sell greens powder, they sell an identity, a morning ritual for high performance people. And the result is an extremely high NPS that generates massive organic referrals. After all, no brand with this revenue range achieves these results without strong word of mouth or a strong community that not only consumes frequently but also recommends it to other people, making it so that most of their new customers come from referrals, not paid ads. Ritual, this multivitamin brand, differentiated itself in the market with something simple but powerful: total transparency. They were the first brand in the industry to have a completely traceable supply chain. You can literally see where each ingredient comes from. This created an absurd level of trust with customers, which translated into high NPS and impressive retention rates. Nutrafol, this hair growth supplement brand, invested heavily in clinical studies since 2018. They don't just show clinically validated ingredients, they have studies showing efficacy of the final product, and the result, an extremely loyal customer base that actively defends the brand because they saw real results. See the pattern? These brands didn't become famous just because they invested more in ads than everyone else. They grew because they built experiences so good that customers became active promoters of the brand. Okay, Paul, you convinced me, but how do I use this in my brand? First, you need to measure. And I'm not talking about sending an annoying email to your base asking for a rating. I'm talking about having a real NPS system that actually works. The most effective way is to send the NPS survey at the key moment in the customer journey. Around 30 days after the first purchase, when the customer has already tested the product and used it for some time, after the third order when they've become a recurring customer, and also quarterly for your base of active customers. But here's the secret most people ignore. Bain and company discovered that companies that close the feedback loop, that is, that respond to customers who have answered the NPS, can increase retention by up to 12%. This means that when a customer gives a low score, you can't just look and be sad. You need to reach out, understand the problem, and solve it. And when a customer gives a high score, you need to capitalize on it. Ask for a review, ask for referrals, turn them into a case study. And there's more. You can't use NPS just as a metric. You need to use it as a transformation tool for your company, which means sharing results with your entire team, identifying patterns in negative feedback. You can use AI to sort through and ask about what's happening again and again. Testing changes and measuring the impact on NPS and using promoters as brand ambassadors. Major supplement brands do this religiously. They know exactly what the NPS is for each product, each acquisition channel, each customer cohort, and they use this to make decisions. So I said all of this, show data, the cases, but let me give you the real reason why I made this video and why you need to care about NPS. In today's supplement and wellness market, with increasingly high cost per acquisition, with increasingly demanding consumers, and with brutal competition in every niche, you can no longer build a sustainable brand just with aggressive marketing and a mediocre product. The brands that will dominate in the next 5 years are those that understood a simple truth. A promoter customer is worth 10 times more than a regular customer. They buy more, they stay longer, they refer more people, and it costs zero to acquire the new customers they bring. And the only way for you to know how many promoters you have, to measure whether you're building a real brand or just a pump and dump scheme, is by measuring your NPS consistently and acting on the results. In the worst case, you will discover exactly where your brand is failing and you'll be able to correct it before it's too late. In the best case, you build a sustainable growth machine where your own customers become your best marketing channel, where your churn rate plummets, where your lifetime value multiplies, and where you finally manage to compete with the big brands, not because you have more budget only, but because you have more loyal customers. So if you're the owner of a supplement or wellness brand and you are not measuring NPS consistently yet, you are flying blind. It's like trying to build a house without knowing if the foundation is solid. So start today, send the first survey to your base, see results, act on them, and track over time. I'm Paulo Galeri, founder of Leadways, where we help the leading supplement and wellness brands with their Google and YouTube ads, customer acquisition campaigns, and also acquisition funnels on their website. So if you run ads for your brand and you want to increase results, click the first link in the description and we'll talk.